Alright, good evening, everybody. Happy Friday. There we go. I think we are all set up and ready to roll. Let's see. Good evening, people coming in. Happy Friday. How are we doing out there? We got some good Friday plans, good weekend plans. We're just gonna do what I do, which is make stuff. Alright, let's see. Pencil. Pencil sharpener. Touch these faces up a little bit, especially the 3/4 one. Oh, there we go. Where did I put that brush at? Oh, there it is. I almost dropped it on my dog today, which he did not appreciate. Does not like it when art supplies fall from the sky. Let's see if I can pick it up with my foot. It's not working. There we go. So I broke that there. Alright. Alright, let me zoom in where I'm actually working, huh? Alright, that feels better. that nose out a little bit. Good evening. I appreciate that. Hopefully it'll work out. Alright, let me see. This eye feels a little off still. Everybody got good any good Friday plans going on? Any particular plans? Just homework, huh? Good times then. I guess this is a kind of homework, but you know, it's self-inflicted. So like that needs to go back. Can think of worse ways to, you know, spend a Friday night. That feels better. And then I can bring that eye in a little bit forward, I guess. Let's see. Is it the good kind of homework or the boring kind of homework? Oh, drawing also, that's good. That means you're coming up on the end of a semester, huh? That's always a nervous place to be, right? I got some grading to do tomorrow. I was busy today with school projects and stuff, but hello over there on Kick. Appreciate that. It's part of a larger project I got going on. I wanted to do some shorter stories with it, so I wanted to come up with a simpler character. Um, and so I put this one together. Did some sketches of initial rough sketches. I'm working on some detailed stuff, but it's supposed to be basically this kind of guy right here. And I'm playing around with the haircut and some other details and things. Might put like a tattoo on the side of his head, but I don't know. I think it's just like maybe more than I want to do here for now anyway. But yeah, it's part of a larger project I've got going on called Bramble. And it was initially just kind of a portfolio project, and it's kind of expanded beyond that a bit. And yeah, so it is that humans have settled on this planet, and it was like a long-term, long flight thing. Anyway, they arrived there, and the planet itself kind of looks like it's made of a giant tangle of plants. So it's like a big tangle, or a bramble, so hence the name. Anyway, on the planet, there's kind of evidence of a past civilization, but there's none of there's artifacts of a certain type, but none of the actual people are still there. And anyway, the initial story I wrote kind of has humanity after they've been there for a few hundred years or 500 years or something. They've really settled in, and it's about a guide and this bureaucrat that go out to this illegal reserve to go check out some artifacts, and he brings his daughter along, and they kind of run into problems. And I've been working on that story and concepts for it, but it's a little complicated, so I thought I'd do like one that's say set 100 years or 80 years after they've arrived. And so as I said, set one of those earlier, and so their tech and things and will be more similar to what they would have arrived in, and this guy goes out on a trip he's got some indication that one of the colony ships or landing ships that had crashed in the initial arrival, and kind of figured out where it's at, and he's going to go out there and see if there's anything that they can recover. So he's kind of going out to examine this crash ship So they do, because the way the planet is, it's kind of got all these giant tangles scattered around. Let me see if I can find an example in here of that type of thing. Let's see, I got a little sketchbook of stuff here. There's a sketch. There's one of the artifacts. You can kind of see the background. Maybe like right here is kind of the city. You can see like these giant structures back here and the tree there. And this is like I was thinking about the city. What else could we go in here? Maybe here, some sketches in there about that. Let's see, what else do we got? It's just a plain page. There we go with that. There's those like some ideas for where the city could be built. Started this, haven't finished it. It's probably not exactly what I want, but it's okay start. Then here's like maybe where this particular ship has crashed, and so you can kind of see there's some of these structures here and this thing here and there. Anyway, it goes out there, and I don't have like a strong story than him like showing up and coming across this alien artifact that's kind of in the middle of this ship. But I could expand it beyond that, but I want to keep it short, maybe a couple scenes, 5 to 10 pages long or something like that as a comic. So I need a character for that, and this is also just helpful for me to do some of these like turnarounds and things, so I can get that practice. Character design's never been kind of my focus, but a lot of my students are really into it. I teach at a university, teach art, do concept design and illustration and figure drawing and all that stuff, and anyway, I was thinking about him trying to like get around on this planet, and the idea I have is like this is a drone that's over here. This is sort of a control gas unit thing over here, and then this will deploy a kind of balloon, like a hot air balloon that allows them to kind of float around. Compressed gas that gets heated and allows them to float a bit, and then using these running prosthetics. These you'll see on like people that have like lost a limb or something like that. They'll run on these prosthetics. I was thinking that'd be kind of handy for him if he's having to jump around and run around in this environment where things can be at different elevations all the time, and so this could help him kind of get around. So working name for kind of his job is a actually, let me get this up here, but something like tree hopper, like the bug, but kind of as a loose little kind of working name. Really a ranger, but they call them tree hoppers because they're running around on the trees, on the branches. And by his time, no one's actually seen a tree hopper. So by the time he's doing this job, like it's 100 years later, and they haven't been to Earth in forever. But he's a tree hopper. Well, tree hoppers are kind of bug. They have the best hats in the insect kingdom. Tree hopper. Yeah, so I think next just maybe some close-ups of some of his stuff maybe would be good. And then maybe a page of like gestural and facial expressions. And that should work. Yeah, that's kind of the overview of kind of what we're working on. So initially it started as a portfolio project for me, kind of looking at some things I would like to improve. Some processes and skills I wanted to explore that I haven't really used as much of. And that's kind of where this came from. So we got the drone here. It's pretty simple. It's just basically it's like a little cylinder shaped thing. Like kind of like those fans that don't, the bladeless fans, but this way it's more advanced, and it zips around, kind of checks things out. So it's back here. But he also uses it to help him direct his travel as he flies with the balloon. So it attaches to the back of his pack here. So Yeah, and then I might, enlarge this and do a little more detail on the character there to help me figure, a few things out. Maybe make it, a third larger or something. Print it out in blue and then draw it up and ink it or something. So that's the yeah, so that's what we're kind of thinking. So like I need to pay attention to how this little grip here gets on there. So maybe I'll start that over here. We're going to start with this little thing right there. Oh, good evening over there. Not bad. I'm glad somebody likes what I do. Design his little control panel here. That'll be his little control thing that's on his chest, attached to his strap there. I think this should be ready, okay? Grab my dealy womp. Putting on something to listen to. Alright, and then we'll put this on. Oops. There you go. You see control panel, but don't know why. Yeah, so I basically, I'm just kind of zoomed in over here working. It's a little tiny area, but actually I should probably just scoot the whole thing over, huh? Make it more visible. But he has a control panel that releases kind of a balloon that he floats around on. So I'm just trying to kind of design out some of these things. dog went? Probably get a drink of water, maybe? Something like that. Round that off. And we'll get a little side view here. I should probably zoom in a bit, huh? There we go. It's a little bit of distraction sometimes, you know, paying attention to the camera. Kind of see the elevation of the buttons. Sure, all gets getting some. All right, well, have a good one. Got your homework all done, I take it. You're ready for your Monday class. Yeah, it's a couple things I got to pay attention to. Look over at the chat on the left. Make sure I look at the camera once in a while, right, to see what the camera's seeing, and then gotta decide kind of what's going on his patch there, whatever his group is. Maybe it'll just be like a tree hopper symbol. Maybe tree hopper might be fun to reference. Would be forget his name. But there's a character in Jeff Smith's Bone that is a tree hopper. I don't remember his name off the top of my head. Or maybe that would be kind of to hit the little thing on his sign, his little patch. It won't be the same, but maybe something similar to that. Alright, nothing too exciting there. So that could be a thing, and then maybe we'll do some of these other areas just to kind of think about what they look like. Yes, maybe I'll design that real quick. Where's my little circle template? I'll design a little badge. So we're calling tree hopper. I might as well put a tree hopper on the badge, right? Let's look up. Does everybody know what a tree hopper is? So search tree hopper. They're little bugs that kind of like have a triangular shape to them, but they got a wide variety of hats, I like to say. Here, grab my iPad, bring it down here. These are tree hoppers over here. Great. Move this over and out of the way. I've confused Pinterest. Guess I'll have to try that again. There we go. Let's do a search. Tree hopper. There's that picture again. So yeah, these are tree hoppers in here. There's some more basic ones, but these are a little fancier. But I'm thinking maybe this one would be really good. It's pretty iconic, or that one up there could be a good little badge shape for them. Yeah, I just thought of that, so I think that would be. They got fancy hats, right? Like this guy right here. Right here. But yeah, so put that back up there. Part of where some of the subject matter comes from this project is just like an assortment of different projects I've had over the last few years. Where I'm just kind of, up. My table is actually at an angle, and so I've got magnets on the paper here holding it in place. But yeah, tree hopper, I think I like that one. So we'll just do a simple design in here. That looks something like that, I guess. Who doesn't love tree hoppers, right? A little border on it, and that'll be the badge. Probably a spot for the eye to be visible here as a negative shape. Probably do a larger one just so we can see it better. Maybe this size would be good. Let's see, probably at least that width. Something like that. There we go. So I'm still not quite getting that shape right on the front. It's too short. Let's bring this forward here. There's the back. There we go, that's feeling better. Maybe a little something here just to maybe an indication of where they came from up there. And stitches. And there's the badge. panel. Alright. Oh, why don't I put music on? Yeah, because I'm streaming on multiple platforms. I'm listening to music. You know, I got my headphones on. Why don't you got yours on? Are you allowed to play music on Kick? I'm also on Instagram and YouTube at the same time, so, you know, with great power comes great responsibility. Alright, that's all good. Yeah, so I don't know, you can play music on Kick, is that true? I mean, I can find like some, you know, random, you know, fake music, I guess, to put on, but I don't know. Never liked that very much. Alright, we got some details here. We got his badge. Got that. I need to design his hopper thing down here. I think that could use some work. Shows what I know, right? So I got this at 1 scale, but you know, it's important to kind of get the larger view of things. Right? 8 o'clock. Oof. I was fixing up this guy's face over on the right, but so we got the drone, we got badge, we got control panel. These things should be pretty basic. There's just kind of a seam and they're leather. Yeah, but we can indicate the going on in the badge though. And put a badge on his shoulder. Right there. These could use some design, really seeing how this is on here. Maybe the gloves. Excuse me. Oof. I think we got enough room for this stuff down here, so maybe do a side view of the get rid of this here. Yeah, so I was looking at these prosthetics they have for, you know, people that have lost limbs and things, and it's like, oh, you know, what if that was like a really great way of like just getting that little bit of extra lift as you're jumping around in the you know, the trees and tangles of the bramble world here. Was my thought here, right? I'll move that over where you can see it. So we're just designing the badge, and now we're working on this thing here. Looks like I can bring this lower and do a rough sketch, knock it back, and then about my French curves for this. Stop about there. And then we're looking at how it attaches onto the boot. Up here. I'll probably actually put the boot on, but we'll look at the attachment point here. They come pretty close in, so it's got the straps, supports that go onto the boot. Let's go on there, pretty solid grip. And let's get rid of the extra. I remember seeing this used in, was it Portal? The main character runs around with these kind of jumpy things attached to her shoes. So that's what I was thinking of when I was working. I was like, oh yeah, it would be nice if there's like a way of getting around just a little better here. And I was like, oh yeah, there was that Portal game way back when. This one we're going to kind of maybe a little bit broader tip so we can, we're not like disappearing, and put some grips on it. A little thicker. Might not even need to go back. Yeah, here we go with the little attachment point here. And then kind of braided strap here. So maybe use some kind of metal or plastic here. Also excited, I've been working on this revamp of my university's illustration program, or communication arts, and anyway, it's been a bit of an interesting kind of negotiation process, because certain things I wanted to see happen, and it's been kind of interesting to figure out how to negotiate them to make it happen. And I think today I found the ultimate solution that I think satisfies everybody. And I think will be the maximum benefit to the students who will start going through it in 2027. It's weird saying those years like that, right? So put that on there. I'm way down here. I need to lift this up. I'm not, you can't even see where I'm working. Let me push this up. Sorry about that. I've been designing this thing down here. Yeah, if it goes off screen, let me know. I'm not always looking, so like, somebody drops a bunch of notes in there, just says, hey, dummy, pay attention to what you're doing. Yeah, but this is a blade prosthetic. Maybe we'll stick some rips kind of rounding back over here. And this will be like a buckle, so it tightens. And then this will be the rest of that kind of nylon strap. So that'll attach to the boot. And there, that comes down, and then the shoe hangs about down here. And there's the boot. Been trying to decide on kind of when they left Earth. I haven't quite figured that out. I was thinking, what if it was sometime in the 80s and, you know, they worked out some kind of peace deal, and, you know, the Americans and the Soviets kind of sent out a joint mission, you know, put together some colonists, and or the Russians and the Americans together put out something like that, and then kind of sent them out into space as a symbol of possibility. And you know, it's a multi-generational ship, and then at some point maybe they get far enough away from Earth that they kind of lose contact, or something happens with their communications and they lose contact, but they end up being on this generational ship for, you know, however long it takes to go from here to, you know, another solar system. You know, maybe they're here for, you know, on the ship for like, you know, 500 years or something, or longer. You know, assuming some kind of technological advancement. And as a result of the troubles they have on the ship, maybe that's what part of the reason why they crash on this planet. Yeah, but I'm happy with my tree hopper thing there. I'm glad I thought of that as a word. Alright, so there's a kind of a side view. Let's get a back view. So I'm going to transfer some of these elevations over. So let's get out my triangle. Wrong triangle. Here's the big one. There it is. One of my goals here is, again, everything should have like a reason for being, a raison d'être, or whatever the French term is. So it's not just, you know, a cool looking thing, but it's like got a real purpose. So I guess we'll stick it over here. I'm going to reorganize these on another sheet to kind of do them a little larger. One is there, and the next one. There. And the next elevation is there, and then we need this guy. And then this guy. And this guy. And then this one down the center. And this is where the boot will be. Looking at the back view, so I won't see as much. And put a nice little center line through that. Now we can pivot off of that. So that's there, and then we'll go in, so it's just rough in the boot shape so we can wrap it, and there's the bottom here. And then this thing is the attachment device. It needs to be wide enough to hold the blade. And then the blade extends above that a little bit. Something like that, right? And as usual, let me know if there's any questions. Nope, nope, nope. Alright, never mind there, I guess. Need something else to listen to. What should I put on here? It's interesting to me how the kind of the music people organize the what they recommend to you, and it seems to be kind of based off of I don't know, it's like, you know, they want you to listen as long as possible, so they'll put songs in front of you that they think you're just going to sit and listen to over and over again. And I'm gonna try this because I got a little keyboard on here. That's what we want. I'll do that. It's been a while. So I have this little remote. Too far. All right. There we go. That feels better. So that's a little bit above that. And this kind of wraps around the boot. It comes in. And then there's an angle here and here. And this is the thing gripped onto it. Sort of plate with maybe it's secure through there. Yeah, but I got, in terms of the story, I got to thinking about Travis Charest's Not that I'm Travis Charest or anything, but I got to thinking about his little Space Girl comic that he used to do. He keeps promising to bring it back, and then he doesn't. Very disappointed in him. I'm sure he cares, but basically just like it was like a panel a day or like a short 2-panel thing. So I'm thinking, well, if you did like a scene at a time and just kind of pushed it forward with a general idea of where it's going, that might be like a good place to start, just to kind of explore storytelling with this medium and see where it goes. And I thought this would be kind of a relatively non-committal form, and that way I could finish up the other characters in the story and kind of get that sorted before I move on. This would be kind of a good kind of foundational thing to help me figure out how these things work within the world I'm trying to build here. So that's kind of the intent, and helps me kind of talk through this. I actually do this on live stream because it just makes me feel like I'm talking through these ideas, even though, you know, people aren't always here, but sometimes they are. Let's see, where's my ruler at? So that's kind of what's going on in my brain. Let's get a nice straight line right there. So it needs to go all the way up. Sorry about that. Up, up. And then we've got, so I want to widen that out so it's kind of like a foot width. And then we get the treads. They go out a little bit so they're kind of replaceable. And then we can see kind of where the bend is right here. And then it straightens out up here. And there's the back view for that. I kind of like working things out with pencil. It feels, you know, feels good. Feels more committed. Alright, that feels good. Alright, so let's just touch that up a little bit. So we've got the tree hopping device going on here. So we got side, obviously. Rear. I'll put I guess the other one right here, do front view. I don't know the top and bottom need that much design work, but so let's put a little like rim across here, kind of like you'd see on a boot. Panel there. Alright, let's get the front view on there. There's my triangle. Let's see, that's too tall, I guess, right? Something worth noting. Probably should have done these on the other page, but oh well. Alright, put it right here. Sorry, we're just capturing the front view, not the side view, the back view. So I don't need as much information collected. Let's grab that. There we go. Not quite level, huh? Alright. Feels good. And you do this like 100 more times, right? Alright, there's the front of the boot, and it kind of comes up a little bit. that's where kind of the strap will go here. Right. At least I'm keeping it in view. Well, not over here, I guess I'm not. Let's put that back in view. There we go. For the Instagram folks, make sure you can see what's going on. Straps up here. Alright, we get maybe the kind of a zipper down the front. Whatever's holding the boot on. A little bit of a trim here. Stitch or whatever at the top. And then this part here, wrapping around the ankle. And this comes down. That's about that wide. Comes forward, has a little bit of an up tilt in the front, same as the boot. Maybe I should show that over here, right? There we go. Red cube. What happened to default cube? Couldn't make it tonight. Alright, there's the front. Of the boot. So we got patch, we got control panel thingy there, we got the boots being designed. So that all feels pretty good. We got our drone. What else do we need on here? Those goggles, yeah, I'll have to figure that out. Alright. What do you think, Bosch? We need goggles on him. That might be worth doing with tracing paper. This is still a little rougher than I'd like. Alright, I haven't made a strong decision on those goggles yet, but yeah, I guess the tracing paper will help me with. That's what we'll do. Grab some tracing paper. See if I can figure that out. Some sort of viewfinder thingy or something. How did I put it up here? I think it's over there. There it is. Alright, here's some tracing paper. Oops, don't fall down, paper or pad. It is probably move this stuff out of the way. I'll just use this these heads over here for my templates. Alright, let's see, let's look up some techie goggles, huh? That one's kind of interesting. Looks like AI. Yeah, but that could be a place to start. So tracing paper is one of my favorite papers in the world. Kind of one of the ideas here is he's got this balloon thing that deploys, so he needs some kind of goggles to do that, but they also should maybe serve a secondary purpose. Let me come up with a few designs that might be helpful. I like how these kind of wrap around the orbits. Something like that. Maybe make them a little bigger. Something like that. 9 o'clock. Where's the night going here? Time flies when you're having fun, I suppose. Even if no one else is here, so. Alright, nobody yet. And then maybe we've got some techie stuff on here, maybe something here in the middle. Maybe some kind of indication of other elements on here. I was thinking, yeah, some kind of headphones. Are there to help him hear or control or stay in contact, that kind of thing. I don't mind look on my head. Where's my mirror at? There you are, mirror. Sort of array on there. That kind of thing. Something like that. Something like that. And then if we do a side view, over on this side at least. Something like that, maybe. Or we do a few of these. It's more maybe. Well, I'm working on a kind of a portfolio project update, and I'm kind of looking at things. I'm like, well, I never put a lot of emphasis on character design, so I'm working on that, and I've kind of got maybe a comic that I want to do based off of this. Let's see who went in there. So let's go with you, I guess. So have the overall project. I've mentioned it in here before, but I don't know if you've heard the story or not. But basically, humans have settled on this other planet, and they anyway, the planet, when they arrive, it appears to be kind of a giant tangle of plants, and there's evidence there of a past civilization, but they're long gone. So none of them are there anymore. There's no even bodies. There's just these kind of structural artifacts that have been left behind. And so humans settle there, and the original story I was working on here was set, say 800 years or 500 years after that, and they're well established. There's no more contact with Earth. There's probably some reasons for that, but there's no more contact with it. And it was going to have this guide and a bureaucrat and his daughter go out to check out some of these artifacts in a preserve where they're really not supposed to check things out. So it's like a preserve they're not allowed into. But I thought, back off that more complicated story and just have maybe set this, shortly after, say 70, 80 years after their arrival. And this guy here is tasked with going out and locating, some of the crash sites and things that maybe they haven't gotten to, where there might be survivors still or resources they can access. And can go out and reestablish that contact and or get access to the things that they need. And so anyway, this is what this guy, they're called tree hoppers. So I designed a little badge over on the left. You can't see it from here, but put a little badge on shoulder, and it should be visible over here. So I thought this would be a simple story, just kind of have him go out and do some simple scenes where he goes out to explore and maybe runs into some more basic problems, just because I could use the practice. I haven't really done this kind of thing before, like a comic or a graphic novel. So I thought I would design up the character. I mean, I could do this on the computer, it'd be a little faster maybe, but I really like, whipping out the pencils. So that's what this is for. So design this character. I want to do this right here. Maybe do a sheet of facial expressions and body expressions, kind of showing him doing different actions just to kind of rough it up. And then jump into, probably enlarge it, do a little detail pass, and then start doing some short scenes that follow each other sequentially. So if you're familiar with what's his face? Travis Charest, really popular comics illustrator, mostly from the 90s, but he's, let's see, I need to build this. I'm trying to build this, same thing, different views, so front, side, 3/4. But he did this thing called Space Girl for a while, and he keeps threatening to bring it back, and then doesn't. So we're all very disappointed in him. I should send him a note. Like, who's this random guy telling me to get back to this free project I was doing for everybody? But he would just basically do like a panel a day, kind of telling the story of the space girl as she was running into these complicated situations. And so I think maybe if I do like a scene at a time and just kind of build it off of that, it's not really going anywhere in specifically, but it'll give me a chance to do like, say 5 pages at a time to explore a little bit, work on my technique, and figure things out. And part of the reason like I want to do the comics thing too is that I teach at a university, and we have a lot of students that are really interested in that. And a big part of the reason why is like comics is a really simple, low cost medium for them to explore a story or a character or an idea without too much investment. So they all really like it, and never really done them myself, especially when I found out when I was really young how little they get paid per page. I didn't know about royalties back then though, so maybe I should have reconsidered my choices, but I did not, so lost out on whatever that might have been. But I thought I do is like do this character thing, and then this could be an opportunity for me to not only develop that portfolio, but develop maybe some of that skill related to doing comics, and that could help me with my students. Who knows, maybe I could take some of this and pitch it to an Image or something like that if it has enough juice in it, and send it off to them, see what they think about it. Tracing paper, by the way, is one of the best drawing papers. It's a little, it can be a little dangerous if you're not careful with, like, I could easily bend it here or something. But it's nice because you can pretty much erase anything off of it, which makes it really nice for testing these designs out. These I just did straight on the paper, but I thought this would be a kind of an interesting approach to this. And then this would come up and around like so. That way I can drop this back on here pretty easily without having to move things around too much. So here's number 1. I'll finish adding some details in here. Yeah, so that's what we got going on here, is this little kind of test project. So, but yeah, that's the kind of intent, what we got going on here. It's after 9 already, huh? Probably stay on for another 20 minutes or so. Hopefully get through another set of these. So yeah, just kind of move that over. Stick my magnet up there. And then I've been just kind of looking at maybe get some bigger ones here. Like it could be, you might need, some kind of breathing apparatus if it goes high enough, I guess, but so, but that's what I'm thinking here. That's my little story. Nothing in there. Maybe only one ear gets it on this one. Uh-oh, can you hear my dog sleeping? Hello over there, crunchy wrists. How are we working out over there? Alright, easy enough. Yeah, so I continue to work on this little character here. On some goggle designs. So, like, you know, what if this was like more basic, or what if there was some kind of I do want to keep them relatively simple, just because, you know, I want it to be able to illustrate with it pretty easily. A new tube of watercolor paint, huh? That's always exciting. New supplies, right? I picked up some new supplies. I tried these out. I wasn't too happy with them. These, this brand right here, Wallace Seymour. I tried using them with ink, and it just, like, didn't really do anything. Like, it didn't really leave a mark. Worked okay with the brush. It's a little light. It's supposed to be chestnut. Like real chestnut. And then I got this other one. This is actually very non-light fast color, elderberry, like it's real elderberry. But I thought I'd give it a try, but it's like I tried using it with a nib, and like just nothing came off the nib. It was weird. I don't know if like you have to prepare it a special way or something. Maybe I need to email the people I bought it from. Said, hey, I was in there and, you know, bought these supplies from you guys, and I don't get what the deal with these things are. They're supposed to be like really nice specialty thingies, and it didn't work. But yeah, new supplies is always, you know, it's always an interesting experience, right? You know, figuring out what they do, what they don't do, and yeah, it could be. I mean, maybe I'm just using the wrong nib. I tried a couple different ones. I mean, I tried, you know, using this one, Hunt 102. I don't know if I've tried. I think I tried this one a little. It seemed like it was really watery with this one. Maybe I need to leave them open for a few days or something to see if some of the water cuts out of there. Hello, Dr. Thornock. I don't know. Could be. Because they are natural. It's like, you know, it's real stuff. You know, it's not nothing fake, as, you know, can be. It's not like, you know, weird chemicals or anything. It's all natural. But as was, what is it? Soho Art Materials is where I got him at, which is a really kind of very professional art supply company in New York. You know, they build frames and things for artists and sell specialty supplies and all that jazz there. I picked up a couple tubes of the oil paint too to try out, but I haven't had a chance to get to them just yet. I have like an earthy green and a this is just like darken these up. I think that's a good idea. Shiny dark. Yeah, it could be that. I wonder because I was messing around, but I just don't know what else I would do with it. I mean, I could use a brush, I guess, but it seems like brush just didn't seem like it, put a lot of pigment down. So, but it could just be I'm using it wrong, because it's a natural pigment. Maybe it's supposed to work a certain way. Guess I should have asked about it. I just assumed, I could just dip it in there and work that. Extremely low to Blick. Yeah, well, Blick, you get some good deals online with Blick, right? Them and Jerry's Artorama, right? Usually what I do is I'll do a cart with them, Jerry's Artorama and Blick at the same time and just see who's cheaper. They sell a lot of the same stuff or the same type of stuff. But there's there's other kind of specialty art supply makers that make like hand ground oil paints and very, very toxic mediums. I've been to Blick's before. We actually have a Plaza Art Materials, which is a chain, but they're much smaller than Blick or Jerry's Artorama. They're out here on the East Coast, kind of East Central Coast. But I've used to shop at Blick. It's pretty nice, but but it's more for like a general audience. And so there are like these kind of very highly specialized people that make handmade supplies that usually of a higher quality. Like you can get some really good stuff at Blick. Like you can get Williamsburg or Old Holland oil paints. But there's other there's even smaller sellers like Rublev and oil that make oil paints and other things that are very, very particular. Like they have these old Dutch stack paints, so it's like an older flake white or lead white paint, and older version. It has like it's uneven texture within the paint, so like the particles of the paint are of uneven size, which is part of what gives the older paints their look. So if you go look at a Rembrandt or a Rubens, if you kind of look really closely at the paint, it's not as evenly, like the particle size in the paint isn't as even as you might see in like a modern painting done with titanium white. And so that they make a Dutch stack, which kind of gives that same process that they would have used back then to build that kind of paint, and it has a very unique interaction with other paints on the surface. Flake white itself is really good for oil painting. It's very toxic, of course, but the way oil paint actually works, I'm not sure how familiar you are with art supplies and that, but the way oil paint actually works is it doesn't dry, it crystallizes, it oxidizes. So basically it absorbs, oxygen binds to the oil in a chemical process, and which actually is one of the reasons why oil paints over time, they actually become more transparent as over time as a result of that. So that's a part of why they glow so much. You see older paintings, as long as they've been taken good care of, like a really nice Vermeer or Rubens or Rembrandt or Anthony van Dyck or something like that, as long as the paintings have been cared for really well over the centuries, they've got a special kind of glow, and the glow is from the paints. Well, it does doing two things. One is the oxygen absorbing within it, and then the materials used become more transparent over time. And then other thing that kind of goes on. Yeah, perfect for your forgeries, right? You got to know what's going on so you can do good forgeries. You don't want to do like cheap, nasty ones. You got to get really good ones. For all I think there was some guy in World War II that was selling like fake old master paintings to Hitler. He was kind of doing these forgeries, got caught up in a whole thing. But so with the flake white though, so the lead white, it does a similar thing where I like that one a lot. does a very, very similar thing where the lead itself will actually bind with the oil, and so it can help dry it from the inside out, not just from the outside in where it gets contact with the oxygen directly. Which means that it can also build a more stable surface, and that means less cracking. So by using flake white within the paint itself, you're actually setting it up for a better longevity. It'll preserve a lot better. So that's like a big reason to use it. Obviously, it's very, very toxic, and you got to be careful with it. But for most people, just as long as you don't stick it in your mouth, like, you're going to be fine. There's plenty of other toxic paints that are easily available, like the cadmiums are very, very toxic. They can hurt your can really cause problems with your nerve endings. And then if you're a woman, they can affect your ovaries. So if you absorb cadmium or lead, it can really mess with your reproductive system and the health of any future babies. So you never want to leave any of those things on your skin or ingest them or any of that. You don't want to make too much of a mess so you avoid those particular issues. Yeah, titanium white, because it just doesn't help with the drying process at all. So, because it's titanium. Actually, if you look at it was the titanium oxide, I think is the chemical, something like that. It's actually in your toothpaste. But they put that. That makes what the toothpaste looks so white and shiny. Is or was it titanium sulfide or something like that? I forget what it is exactly. But the lead white's really good for kind of helping your paintings dry. In fact, I have a few kind of lead-based mediums around. Like a really good one that I like is Maroger medium, Maroger. I haven't used it in a long time, but you mix it's called black lead, and I forget the other one. You mix these two leads that have been processed two different ways, and you mix them together, and you add a couple drops of water, and it turns into this gel called Maroger medium. You have to be careful with it, because if you use too much of it, it can darken your painting, because you're using black lead paint, or black lead medium, blackened lead. It's like oil that's been put through some lead and cooked at a certain temperature. But you can buy Maroger as a tube of medium from some people. But I like that one a lot. It has a nice feel for it. Obviously, very toxic, of course, so don't ingest it. But you can't breathe it in. There's no solvent in that, so lead wouldn't float very well anyway. Yeah, so there are certain kind of precautions. Obviously, the nerve ending can affect everybody, but a little crazy, right? I think I think even someone like Van Gogh, I think he actually ingested it. But a lot of painters would do what's called pointing their tips. So basically, before they would dip their brush in their paint, they would point their brush, and that involved putting the brush in their mouth, and bringing the brush to a sharp point, and then they would put it in the paint to paint with. So they were actually putting it in their face. But in the past, they had lead pipes, right? So a lot of their plumbing was made out of lead. That was what everybody used for hundreds of years, if not thousands of years, were lead pipes, because lead's really easy to work with, right? So why not? Why not use lead? It's only kind of in the recent, past 50, 60 years or whatever, they discovered that, that's really, really not a good idea. So that's one of the reasons why like lead white's so expensive. If you try to go buy a tube of lead white from Williamsburg versus titanium white, you'll see a big difference in the price. Because they just don't make as much flake white or lead white anymore. Oh yeah, that British company I was mentioning, this so the one that made these inks, they actually sell lapis lazuli, which I thought was really interesting. You can buy real lapis lazuli, the old ultramarine blue. It's expensive, like real lapis lazuli, but yeah. Yeah, that happened to a lot of people because they didn't know what was going on. Like, so the Mad Hatter, right? They would use mercury to help kind of point and sharpen up like the tip of hats. Mercury is also used to treat syphilis because it did reduce the symptoms of syphilis, but also drove you crazy. There's a really great artist whose name is slipping my mind. I've got a book of his stuff downstairs. He was an Italian artist. Really gorgeous paintings. He was completely insane. They think it might have been his exposure to mercury. When he went to Paris to study, he had a very good time with the ladies who were paid to be nice to him, and contracted syphilis as a result. Antonio, I'll remember in a minute. Something with an M, I think. They have a lot of his stuff at the Philadelphia Museum of Art. I have his book. Yeah, we certainly know a lot more, and I think it's a good idea, to be aware of these things. But as long as you're careful with a lot of this stuff, you can use it safely. Just don't eat it. Don't put it in your mouth. And lead light's a lot more transparent. So if you're used to using titanium white, it doesn't take a lot of titanium white to tint a color. To add it to a color. But flake white will require a lot more because it's more transparent naturally. But it's also warmer. So if you were to like squirt out some titanium white next to a blob of flake white or lead white, it's well, yeah, you might not even know, right? You're going crazy. That's the problem with going crazy, right? You don't know you're going crazy. So, you wouldn't even know. It'd be fine. Just one day people would start looking at you funny, and you're like, I must be a genius, because they don't understand me. Right? That's how that works. Nobody understands me. Oh yeah, I like to go landscape painting. So here's some of my oil paintings. So here's a little landscape. I did this a year and a half ago, I guess. Something like that. I should put the date on there. This is more recent. I was quite shocked. It was super silvery out in the woods. I'm painting these on shellacked watercolor paper. It was kind of weird to paint because I'm used to having a bit more variety of color. But it was so silvery out there. It was really shiny. And then this is a little more unfinished one. I was hoping to get a little more sharp detail in here. Maybe I could go back and just kind of add it in because I softened it up before it dried. These ones I just have kind of sitting out here. And I'm also a big fan of gouache. Kind of coming up to an end here anyway, but this is a sketchbook I finished up. Somebody's a little rough. I hadn't done these in a while, but kind of caught into it. So this is my old backyard in Florida during the fun times we all had, right? Trip up to Georgia, water stream. These are all done from observation on location. Waterfall. So this was below this. I was pretty happy with these two. This I was just experimenting with some pointillism. It was a bit of a mess, but it's okay. Sideways. Another little experiment there. Out in a parking lot in the woods. Same area. Yeah, this one I never quite finished. It wouldn't dry. There was some kind of weird weather or whatever, and it just like wouldn't dry. Quick start out on the beach in Florida with some students. Bit of a mess. This one I was pretty happy with, but I came down with COVID the next day. That was really miserable. Had to drive home 10 hours, with a head fog. I guess I have 3 Florida paintings. So this was in Florida just before I moved up here to Virginia. I should look there today. Here's Utah. It's part of that summer move. Stopped out in Utah. There's a side view of a different area in the same area. Guess that one came out okay. So up here in Virginia, it's just started, so I was too busy talking to the person I was hanging out with. Pretty happy with this one, out in the woods. So these are all gouache in here. Gouache is great for shapes, right? I like the shapiness of things. This is out here in Virginia too. Put in the right spot. There we go. Also out here. So the George Washington National Forest back out in Utah. A little rougher. It was sometimes like the weather out there bothers me, and I didn't bring tape, which was just kind of throwing me off a little bit. And then it was super windy and sandy. It was even worse for that one. This one came out okay. That was okay. A little saturated. This is the edge of a log. And then same area. This right here, so that actually is the same log as this. This is just the edge of it right here. So that right here is just the edge of that from a different point of view. This one I should have stopped. I was spending so much time on it that when I started, there was light here and light here, and when I was done, there was light here and shadow, and I've spent a lot of time chasing that one around, which I think it came out okay, but it was a lot of effort. This was a little bit of a mess. I just kind of ran out of time and was tired. Awkward view. Yeah, you got to choose your views more iconically, right? But this one came, it's out in the streams. I was pretty happy with that one. This one goes this way. Yeah, these are all done, direct observation outside. So there's the end of the book there. But I'm working on filling up another one. So hoping to get out. I'm probably going to head out during finals week to a certain degree, for a few days at least. But I converted my Nissan Xterra into a micro camper. So I tore out the interior and built it out into this nice place to stay, so I can literally just, head out anytime I want. It's got a fridge, freezer, it's got lights and a secondary power system. It's got a bunch of fans and screens I've built for it to keep it nice and cool in there. And I'm out in the woods, I can leave my dog in there as long as, there's lots of shade. He's not as interested in the hikes anymore. He's getting a little bit older. And he's like, I don't want to go all the way to the top of the mountain again, because that's really exhausting on my little legs. He just turned 8.5, so here, let me grab my iPad and I'll pull that up. Yeah, I call it Xterovich. So if you go to Xterovich on Instagram, you'll find it there. Let's see, where's my drive? Xterovich, there we go. So if I set this here carefully, maybe turn off the lights, we can see. But let's see, where's a good? So there's a campsite view right here. There's the vehicle, pull-out drawer, sink, fridge, freezer inside there. Obviously lights up here. There's all there's attachments for different things in there, and then kind of on the inside, kind of looks like this. So the bed's basically like a cot-sized bed, 30 inches wide. And then, a little over 6 feet tall. And then this is the drawer that slides in. That was another view. The paper towels are on magnets, so I can yank that off and stick it wherever I want. And cabinets and a extraction fan. So there's kind of a campsite having some lunch. Spent way too much time building it out. This is a little bit older version of it. This is after I did the cushions here. I got them sewed up. The wood's all different now. This is the original version I did when I was living in Florida. The first round of it using regular plywood, where I got all the nice hardwoods. So again, there's the older build. So you compare, the woodwork here with, that. So I did this initial build kind of like this. You see, there's no. I just wrapped the cushions in Saran wrap to protect them from any spills. I ran this build for about a year and a half before doing the hardwood one, just to kind of figure it out. I even just wrote notes on the wood and everything before I went to the final one. And then there's kind of a shot of the interior. But again, it's just big enough for me and my dog, basically. But I built this kind of screen to go on the back, so I can take a nap. I did a nap test out on top of this mountain. And the screens, there's also screens for all of the back windows, so I can roll them down. So there's it kind of deployed out there. Working on the screen, clamping it on. There's kind of an interior shot. I've since replaced that back panel so it matches the fabric panels there now. Yeah, there's kind of it without the stuff on here. So I've taken down the ceiling at this point for something or other, but it's different build shots, assembling everything. Can't really take passengers in the back, obviously, anymore, but and then this is some other. Yeah, so there's kind of a nicer shot of the interior. But again, this is about 30 inches wide here. So you can I can sit up inside. I obviously can't stand up. And then I have it set up so that the front of it, you saw in that one shot, basically the front up here folds into a couch. So if I have to be stuck inside for a long time, I can fold that area into a couch and kind of sit more comfortably. If I don't want to lay down or sit squatted inside the whole time. We saw some of these out in the desert. Since replaced this panel with a more finished version too. Yeah, you can see that finished one. I should just take some finished pictures of it. There's the finished panel up there, so it's not the wood anymore. It's got some lights and other attachments on it. Little foldable solar panel over there. So yeah, I love taking that out. And the job I have where I'm teaching, I'm a research professor of concept design, which is kind of probably the only job of that title probably anywhere. Tenure track research professor. So I'm only allowed to really teach 2 classes. I have an extra one this semester for complicated reasons. Lack of due diligence on my part as well as somebody else's, but we're kind of both to blame. So I had to pick up an extra class. But normally in semester I get 4-day weekends basically during the school year, so I can head out and do this painting stuff, which is really, really nice. But as a result of this mistake, this summer, of course, I don't have any classes as usual. And then come the fall, I'm only allowed to teach 1 class in the fall. And so I'll have 5 days off during the week and be able to, 6 days off, because I'll just come in on Fridays. And should be a pretty sweet deal, I think. So I'm looking forward to that. Fall's my favorite, so I'm glad to be up here where we get some actual fall weather and take advantage of that. So I think we made some good progress on this little character sheet tonight. We've got some options to consider with the goggles here. So I've done 3 different sets, different points of view. And then set that down, and then here's our back that up a little bit. Yeah, it's coming up quick. You know, we're finishing up our semester. We have Ian McCaig coming out to do a workshop for our students next week, Monday, Tuesday. Excited about that. And then we've got like a week of, you know, we've got that week, rest of that week next week, and then half of the next week for classes, and then finals week, and then we'll be all the way done. So I'm probably going to take off for at least a chunk of finals week. And then come back and see if there's any heart attacks. You know, go somewhere where I don't have any connection, and then come back and see if there's any heart attacks from students. But should be a good summer for the most part, I hope, and get a bunch of stuff done over the next like 8 months in my very difficult job. We're also excited because we're putting together a new, more focused concentrations for illustration and VFX inside of our major. And I think it's going to make a really big difference for the students that will be participating in it, and the students that will be kind of revving up to go into it. So we're also kind of excited about that. I think got access to a lot of really great teachers and very knowledgeable people. And get it all set up. That's what I've been doing this whole year, is kind of setting up this new illustration track and sorting through all of that to make sure that gets done. But so yeah, I've got exciting things. I'm really interested to see how things go, and all that good stuff. So, but I'm going to call it here for the night, and probably back on in the morning for my morning study. And hopefully some more drawing and painting and all that throughout the day. So thanks everybody that came in. I appreciate it.